Vicario would say, live from Lynchburg in living color. Charlie Vicario's here. If you want autographs, you need to, I think they're 20 apiece. If you want to pose with her for a photograph, that's another 20. And beyond that, you don't have the money for any of the other memorabilia and that sort of thing. Welcome, and let's get started here. And we'll always start with prayer, because that seems to be the best important work that we do. We bow and we align ourselves with what you want to accomplish here. Help us to be emptied of all of our pretense. Empty us from all the hectic pacing, the pain that are in our bodies, the pain that's in our bodies. Lord, help us somehow transcend that. Give us relief from the pain so we can think and dwell on things above. And again, we know that the devil will want to come in and distract us, and he'll want to come in and obliterate things. We pray against that, Lord. We bow in your presence and we ask you for the help that we need for this time. And we need a lot of help. I need help to teach it in a way that's understandable, but also a way that really is compelling in itself, the content. And then my brothers and sisters need help to see, understand, comprehend, remember. So we need you, Lord. Send the Spirit again, who Jesus told us is the teacher. I teach, but I'm not the teacher. I pray that the teacher comes and drives these lessons, these truths, these principles into our lives. We give you thanks in advance, Lord. We give you thanks for what's going to be accomplished here. We bow in your presence and we say, Father, teach us. Your servants are listening. In Jesus' name we pray it. Amen. A couple of those preliminary things, if you wouldn't mind. We still could use help in some of the post-class stuff. Bud Daly takes our raw footage here, and then he puts it onto Facebook, and we need a person who'd be willing to do that. You'll be thoroughly trained and duly licensed to that task by Bud. And Jamie can help, and we're just trying to find some depth on the bench if you wouldn't mind helping us on that. The cookie principle still stands. Notice we're down to, folks bringing them when they remember, and that's fine. We've got plenty of cookies, and Lord, look at us. We are certainly not without calories, caloric intake, so thank you for those that bring those in. My wife listens in, and she's probably listening tonight, and when I come home, I get the critique sheet, and last week I came in, and she says, you know what you do a lot? And I said, what's that? She goes, you sniff. You sniff a lot. And it's not as though she's not heard virtually every sermon for, here she is now. Go ahead. I said, yeah, I know. I hear that a lot. And the reason, let me explain it, so let's get this out, okay? Now that I've drawn your attention to it, that's all you're going to hear tonight is me sniffing. It was too much inner city Los Angeles football as a kid, sandlot football, although there was no sand, it was all cement. And I had too many times that my nose hit the end of my friend's fist. We had those things. I broke my nose over the years about 3 times, and it was never set. And there's all kinds of damage, and that's why I keep these. So if my sniffing somehow manages to be as large in your life as it is my own wife's, then I'm sorry. And if you can take up collection for a nose job, we'll talk about it. We'll negotiate it. With that in mind, then, Let's make a beginning here, and we're to the when question. I want to drive this one home, and I know I say that every time, but if you don't catch when this is referring to, when this was written, if you don't get the verse 1, that twice it's mentioned these things must soon take place, this is near, you're going to then do what most American Christians do, and that's throw this book into the future so far beyond those 7 Asian churches, so far beyond 20 centuries of Christianity that we still don't know when it's going to be answered, but it's soon. I'm wanting you to follow that part of it because you're going to see Jesus larger, clearer, and you're going to finally be relieved from your future being one giant apocalypse. It's going to be in the hands of a good God, a very wonderful. It's why Paul calls the future our blessed hope. If you're not waiting for the Lord's appearing on your tiptoes because it's exciting, then you've misunderstood the word. I had you, with this list, set you free on it. I want to take just 2 of them and read them. So whenever you see a red asterisk, somebody start picking them up, if you would, please. When we see the words the last days, I understand completely that seems like it's got to be the end of the world. What else would that refer to? And the answer is, think yourself in the 1st century AD, in Christ's time. And Jesus had talked about the last days. We're going to turn to Mark 13 in a couple of minutes, and you're going to see that the last things comes up quite a bit. But the last of what has got to be asked here. We always think the last of all time and space. But that's not soon. Again, we're 2,000 years, if that's the case, 2,000 years beyond that. Is it something else that could be soon and near? And remember, that expression comes up 10 different times. So read these on your own if you haven't already. Somebody take 1 Corinthians 10, verse 11. Another person take Hebrews 9:26. Read them as soon as you get them. 1 Corinthians 10:11, Hebrews 9:26. Anyone? Really loud. Use your "Hey Charlie, knock that off" voice.
Hey Charlie, knock that off. Otherwise, he would have needed to suffer often since the foundation of the world, but now once at the consummation of the ages,
Oh.
and revealed to put away sin and the sacrifice of himself.
Consummation of the ages. Welcome, welcome. There's cookies right there. Don't pass them up. Okay? The consummation of the ages. What is that a reference to? This is going to happen at the consummation of the ages. Hebrews 9:26. Really loud. Who's got it? Oh, you read the 9:26? I thought that was the Corinthians. Okay, then 1 Corinthians 10:11. Thank you.
These things happened to them as examples for us. They were written to them to warn us. We live at the end of the age.
Look up here. Betty. Got to do that. He's writing to the Corinthian churches and saying all of this stuff, and he's been talking about communion here and Old Testament wandering in the wilderness, and they drank water from a rock, and that rock was Jesus. And he says that. Read it one more time, Betty, please. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 11.
These things happened to them as examples for us. They were written down to warn us who it is the end of age.
Now, who's the us there? Is it the us? Paul's writing to the Corinthian church from the 1st century AD about the warnings for us, or was it for them and us that were reading this book, that received this book, that Paul wrote the book for? You getting the drift on this? Is it helping you? What's the end of? The order of things. The old, we'll say order again. Let me use that word. The old order, which is called the Old Testament. The Old Covenant. That's what's slowly being displaced. We're in a historical transition when we come to this book. All the old stuff it's been fulfilled, and now God's got to take it to the trash heap. Whereas the new stuff is coming. And you see that throughout the scriptures. On the night he was betrayed, Christ took the old supper, Passover meal, roasted lamb, pita bread, tortillas, that's what they ate it with, some bitter herbs, salt water, and he, right in front of them, said, yeah, this isn't about Exodus and the Passover. This isn't about crossing the Red Sea anymore. This is my body. What's passing away? What is soon to take place? The new order and the New Testament and the new covenant are being brought in. Charlie will tell you, when you're finishing up something, you go to a fade to black. And when something else some new topic is coming on, you bring it up. And that's what we've got. When we step into the revelation is the old is gone, the new has come. And you're in that really interesting phase. The old is gone. So we don't need a temple. The old is gone. And now follow me on this, because I find this fascinating and I don't know how to get it across. I don't have slides for it. Whatever else the Old Covenant, the Old Testament it was about angels and animals. You get a lot of angel stories and you get a lot of animal stories there. From the very beginning, we have the first man being told to name all the animals. And so there's this animal parade going by and he's naming them. And again, since he wasn't getting the species, and he was getting the genus. This is a canid, so we'll call him a dog. This is a feline, we'll call her a cat. You get the concept. And then, within the same day, some think, he was in the garden with her. She had come along by then, the woman. And another animal shows up. This one is a beast, serpent, and this one takes and moves the two perfect beings into sin, animals. And then when they fell into sin, what are we going to do for them? They try and cover up with fig leaves, and God comes along and says, no, you've listened to an animal. You don't want to be like me. You refused me. You disobeyed me. You wanted to be like him. You listened to him. Then you're going to dress up in the skins of an animal. And animals then were the substitutes. And throughout the Old Testament, animals substituted for humans. If you brought a sacrifice into the tabernacle or later the temple, you brought a sacrifice that would substitute for you. You laid your hands on it, and it suddenly, in the eyes of God, took on your sins. And then you slayed it, you burned it so that you could be transformed and go to heaven. The smoke was you being raptured up. And it goes that way. And the other thing you get a lot of are angels. When Adam and Eve fell, God put some angels up at the doorway to the garden and said, can't come back in. And angels minister to Sodom and Gomorrah, minister to Abraham, they minister all through. And now with the new covenant, we don't need more animals. The perfect human that fell in the garden, a new representative Son of God, the very Son of God, took on human flesh in order to get it right and undo what Adam had done. There was no animal that substituted for Jesus. Jesus substituted for us. And so now in the new order, it's about men, women, no animals. We don't need animals. What do we get by way of animals? What kind of animals you can eat? And that shows our mastery over them. Where does it all come in? It comes in after the cross. The new order begins. Listen, maybe you've got another side of that last statement of Jesus on the cross. It's finished. What's finished? Yeah, we're right to think it's his sufferings that are finished, his pain, the very work of atonement, but what also is finished? Because it is. The Old Testament's finished. He fulfilled it perfectly. Every law, every festival, everything in the Old Testament, including the very lives of those that were our fathers, the kings, the patriarchs, the prophets, he fulfilled them. He was the better, this is all Hebrews, he was the better Moses. He was the better Abraham. He was the better sacrifice. Read Hebrews in with your study on Revelation, and you're going to see this thing begin to, out with the old, in with the new. Everything is new. Revelation is concerned with the same things that the rest of the New Testament is concerned with. Because this is going on, Old Testament, the new has come. And there were those Jews that stepped into the new stuff. And then they glanced back and said, you know what? I really miss that old-time religion. And this is Hebrews as well. The author of Hebrews says, do you know what you're going back to? This is called apostasy. When you foment rebellion or you fail religiously, it's called apostasy. And when you apostatize, you're leaving, you're turning away, you're a traitor. And what are they turning to? A temple. Boy, that temple was beautiful, wasn't it? And I really liked all the pomp and circumstance. I love men in uniforms, the clergy and all of that. And the author of Hebrews says, do you know what you're going to turn back to? Nothing. Because that's being destroyed. That's not going to last much longer. When you come to John in the Revelation, he says, these things must soon take place. What things? All the things of the last order. No more animals dying. No more geographically located temple. Why? Because God's everywhere. Why? Because His Spirit, who is everywhere, is what makes His presence revealed. You with me on this? Are you following this? Persecution and martyrdom, it's all over in the New Testament. Read the book of Acts for this. I'll put them up if you need them. Go to the book of Acts and see who it is that persecutes the people of the new order, the people in the new covenant, those that love Jesus. Who is it? It's the old order folks. Who was it that killed Jesus? The old order folks. What were they like? They had left the faith. How do you know that? Because God himself, and I know this is an old thought for you, but God himself showed up so that he could reveal himself to them, Revelation, and when he revealed himself to them, showed them his glory and his power, miracles, showed them his teachings and what authority he had and his lifestyle, and there was no guile and he didn't sin. They clearly saw all of that, and their conclusion was not, oh, Lord, my God, I love you, but rather kill him. We want him dead. What do they do with God once they can figure him out? Crucify him. And then they say it. And this is going to be big in the book of the Revelation. We have no king but Caesar. Their king was there. King Jesus, King of the Jews, in the line of David. Their king was there, and they said, you know who really is our king? We really like Caesar. They hated Caesar. But given the ability to choose, we'd rather have a godless pagan idolater than the true God of glory. You can go through on the rest of those. It's a book like all the other New Testament books. Here's where I kind of left you last week, and we're going into more, and I'm going to start speeding it up. Whatever else the book of the Revelation is, it's the expanded. It is the larger, it's the detailed coverage of the Olivet Discourse. You've got this chart. I'm not going to go back over it, but the 7 letters and the 7 seals and the 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls, they follow the Olivet Discourse. With that, I turn you to Mark chapter 13. Mark 13 is Mark's coverage. Let me set it up for you so that you see it. They had, meaning the disciples. Oh, I got this. Pardon me. They had enjoyed the Last Supper. Isn't that what we call it? In what sense is it the Last Supper? It's the Last Supper in that the new things have started. Jesus starts the new supper, the new covenant meal. Passover is the old covenant meal. And, they had it over here in the southwest corner. That's usually where it's picked up. We know that because a group called the Essenes had property over, and this is all inside the walled city of Jerusalem. This is Jerusalem. Thumbs are too fat. Don't say anything. And that would explain it. The Essenes were a monastic order. It was a male-dominated group. Only men were Essenes. And so when Jesus says, they say, where are we going to celebrate Passover? We need to get some grub together. Do what Karen Finder does, go to ShopRite. We need to go and get the food for the meal. And he says, go into, and apparently they knew where, they may have been in the area, when you see a man carrying a jar of water on his head. Men don't carry water. I don't want to set any of you feminists off, but in that day, that was a chick thing. They carried the water. And when you see a man doing that, something unusual. But if it's in the Essene section, in the male-dominated part of Jerusalem, then that's nothing forward. And they had an upper room, and they eat that Last Supper. Doggone it. And they go out. Now, over here, about 1.5 miles outside of Jerusalem, is where they were making their headquarters for the week. Bethany, over where Lazarus, Mary, and Martha lived. So they leave this, go down this valley called the Kidron Valley, and up onto this mountain. Runs north and south on the east side. This is called the Mount of Olives. They come down and out, and one of the disciples, that's called the Mount of Olives because that's where they grow olives. You have to fertilize these things. They're not about to let you have a garden in Jerusalem. It's a holy city. You want to go ahead and smear poop under your tree in the holy city? Gardens were out on the outskirts. That's an olive tree. Jesus went into the Mount of Olives, and it's there that a couple of the apostles mention what they're looking at, which was that. That is, let me put it in reverse, that's the temple of a really wonderful, detailed replica in Jerusalem today, built in the 50s and 60s. What they were looking at as they come out onto this, they turned around, and this is the temple precinct. On the east side of the city, behind the walls, is the temple. They look at it and say to Jesus, "Isn't this a spectacular building? Isn't this amazing?" And Jesus waits until they come up, three of them come up to him, Peter, James, and John, and say, "What did you mean?" You know what he had told them when they said, "Isn't this a marvelous building?" He told them, "I tell you, you can be amazed as you want to. It is dazzling. It's all done in white marbles and limestones, and it's facing east, which means when the sun comes up, all of that stone and all the gold work that's on it just shined." This is a civilization that didn't have 7-story buildings in it. So they were marveling. There's a sniff. Sorry, Donna. And he comes to the point where he says, "Yeah, it's magnificent, but do you know this? There's coming a time when not one stone is going to be left on top of another." Jesus prophesies the destruction of the temple. Why? We're not going to need it. I'm the temple. Moreover, you're going to be the temple. Now then, why do we need a building that's obsolete? If you want to keep people clueless when it comes to religious matters, let them be conflicted. Which is it? Is it the old time? This is what Solomon, and before him, Solomon, we'll go with Solomon, and David built. Is that more impressive from the history of it, or is this spiritual temple that Jesus, I'd rather have the one, because I believe when I see things, when I can hold things, and I can touch things, this is tangible. You're talking about a spiritual temple? It just doesn't have the same feel good for me. Jesus is saying we won't need it. You're not going to have any sacrifices. Why? I'm the sacrifice. You won't need it. What do you need to go there for? To get the teachings? You have no idea what I'm ready to do. I'm going to cast people all over this world, and they're going to bring the scriptures with them. Look what you have in your hand. Now, he doesn't mention this by name, but that's what he accomplishes. And priest, you go to priest in order for him to, check you out for any diseases and establish if you're... No. Here's the really amazing thing. You're priests. You're a royal priesthood. And so God is intentionally knocking this thing down to give you the new and better. It is finished. All of that is simmering under the revelation. It's dazzling, and not one stone will be left on top of another. And then, and I kind of got it mixed up for you, so let me straighten it out. He says that, and then they come to him and say on the sly, the three, Peter, James, and John, they say, now, when is this going to happen? What is the sign that they're about to happen? And Mark doesn't add this one, but this one is in the first 3 verses of Matthew 24. And what is the sign of the end of the age? They want to know when this is going to happen. You're predicting that this is all coming down. Do you have any idea the magnitude of that thing coming down? It's taken us 2,000 years to get to where we're at. And you're saying it's coming down. And Jesus says, let me tell you about it, my dear brothers. And that's what brings us into the Olivet Discourse. Olivet on the Mount of Olives. Discourse, his teaching. And these things are listed. I'll give you the indicators. I'll give you the pointers. I'll give you the heads up, the dashboard lights on when all of this is going to happen. We read these. Look up here for a minute. Give me your hearts. We read this list, and we conclude it's only got that's the only possibility on that is for the end of the world. If this isn't the end of the world, Charlie, when is the end of the world? We'll deal with that another time. This is the end of that building and the old order. What's the first sign? He says, when you see and hear about false messiahs. Obviously, that's got to be cults at the end of the 21st century. You go into the book of Acts. Much of this comes immediately. He's showing them, I've told you it's going to happen. You want to know what? By the time they get to the 8th chapter, you've got men who stand up and say, follow us. We'll show you truth. Rival messiahs. I won't read these, but I'll refer you to them. You've got them. It comes from a really, for me, fascinating bit of history. If you like history, one that I would recommend to you, and you can see he's thick. His name is Flavius Josephus. That's his Latin name. His real name was Yosef. There's the Josephus part. Yosef, which means Joseph. Yosef bin, son. Yosef bin Mattiyahu. His dad's name was Mattiyahu. We would say Matthew. And his dad was HaKohen. Yosef bin Mattiyahu HaKohen. HaKohen means the priest. He was born about the time Jesus died, in the 30s. He was a Galilean Jew. What's the importance of Josephus? You have a 1st century AD historian who lived in the time of this transition. The old order is passing away and everything's becoming new. And Josephus, he has some really important things to say. I didn't mark them out, but you can look them up. He tells you about John the Baptist. This is from a Jew of the time of the 1st century outside the New Testament, and he gives corroborating evidence for John the Baptist. And he tells you about him and who killed him. And then if you think that's incredible, this Jewish historian, also mentions Jesus. Let's see if I can find that one for you. I don't think I can. Unless I'm... John the Baptist. John, that was called Baptist, for Herod slew him, who was a good man and commanded the Jews to exercise virtue and righteousness towards one another. And he goes on. He mentions John by name. Where is he at? I can't do this on all of them. I won't. I'll let it go. He He lived through the wars that are going to take place. I haven't said much about the wars that are going to come, but they're going to come. And one of the things he does is he gives us, like Charlie Vicario, eyewitness accounts of historical events. He's there. He's a reporter. He was such an amazing kind of man that he led an entire city and the Minutemen. What do we call Minutemen? Now, the revolutionaries, it's militia. The militia. He led the militia forces from his own land against the Romans who were beginning to come in and deal with the rebellious. There is rebels afoot. The rebel forces. He led those against the Romans. What does he do? Well, there's a battle at a town that he lived in called Gamla, which is in Galilee, and he lost. But he was of such incredible skills that they took him, this Jewish general who led the rebel forces, the militia, took him all the way back to Rome, kind of spruced him up and presents him to Nero. And Nero makes him his historian for all things Jewish. May have been after him a little bit, but he's made, and that's what these books are. There's 4 in that one volume, 4. Antiquities of the Jews, where Josephus is explaining to the Romans where this whole Jewish religion came from. The Book of Wars. And he tells us about false messiahs that show up. You can go to any bookstore. You can go online. Go to the library. They all have Josephus's. And look these passages up. False messiahs. This isn't the only time you're going to see it. It's there. What are the signs? There's Flavius Josephus. Here's the passage. A great number of false prophets. There's a false prophet that was somehow announcing the destruction that's coming. Second, besides false messiahs, what are the signs of your coming? Wars. Wars and rumors of wars. And that's where American Christians say, oh, look what's happening in Iran, and Cuba, and Venezuela, and China, and Russia, and Ukraine, and wars and rumors of wars. Go ahead.
Okay, back to the temple, not to go back too far. When Jesus said he's going to tear down the temple and he will rebuild it in 3 days, is that referring to him dying and coming back in 3 days and everybody becoming the temple?
You got it. You're already seeing it. I'm sorry? I'm sorry. Yes, I thank you. You failed me. You failed me. That's his job. Don't yell. Scott said, is the passage where Jesus says, tear down this temple and in 3 days it'll be rebuilt? That's in John chapter 2. It's during the first cleansing of the temple. John records the first one. He doesn't record the one in Passion Week. Matthew, Mark, and Luke records that one. But yes, he's got it. Already, within the first week of his ministry, he's dealing with this old order, new order stuff. He's come and he's cleansed the temple. Now then, if you know your Old Testament, if your house had leprosy, that's the word they used. Leprosy. Leprosy of the house, that sounds pretty serious. We know we can get it in the body. Yeah, but you can also get clothes leprosy. It's a word then that you and I would associate with mildew and mold and what have you. If it grows in your house, and this is all in the book of Leviticus, and you'll see it in Numbers, Deuteronomy, you go to it and dig it out and call the priest in. Actually, before you dig it out, you call the priest in, one of the priests. He would examine it, see the coloring on it, and you know that you can tell black mold from other molds and stuff. That's what's going on in those passages. And he'd say, yeah, tear this out. And so you took the portion that was rotted, the house rot, house leprosy. You took that out. And then you replaster it. And a prescribed period of time passes, and he would come back to re-examine the house and see if it needed any more remediation. But you didn't get 3 chances. If it comes back on the next exam, you had to tear the whole house down. So John chapter 2, Jesus comes in, sees the rot in the temple. Money changers, these practices of extorting people from their money and their wealth and robbing widows of their homes. That's one that is added to it in the second exam. And so Jesus simply says, I'm here to dig this out. And then he says, in the passage that Scott mentioned, you tear this house down, and in 3 days it'll be lifted up. We didn't know it at that time. You who are Christians can read that passage and say exactly what he did. Oh, he's the temple. Remember what John does with his gospel? The life of Jesus is stepping out a virtual tour of the temple. And so at the very beginning, John chapter 2, this temple is going to come down. It'll be rebuilt in 3 days. And bingo, he got it. You tear this temple down, and it's the same ones. Who is it that wanted him dead? You read the Passion stories, it's the chief priests, the chief priest, high priest, the elders that want Jesus killed. So they've gone right back to it, and they consider him the rot, and they want him gone. And instead, when he comes on the Monday of his Passion Week, the day after the triumphal entry, Jesus goes into the temple, re-examines it. Again, he's the high priest, the great high priest, the priest after the order of Melchizedek. He checks it out and says, it's come back. The rot. This place stinks to high heaven with every bit of their corruptness. They have made this temple into an idol. They worship the idol of the temple more than the Jehovah of the God of the temple. You with me on this? So what are you going to do? You're going to keep the temple around? No, you fulfilled the duties of the temple, if you're Jesus. And so this temple is going to be dropped right in its footprint. Wars, I'll let you read it, but understand, that's Jesus' word. John tells you it's going to soon take place. If we're right to date the book of the Revelation around 65, 66, the war begins that year. And it goes for, look up here, it'll all start coming together. I know many of you are frustrated in that we're jumbled all over. I'm trying to serve as those teeth braces and bring you into some straight. That war is going to last 7 years. When we meet next week, Lord willing, you're going to see that John reveals himself as a brother in tribulation. 7? Tribulation? This is getting fascinating. Moreover, it's wars and rumors of wars. Smack dab in the middle of that, in the year 68-69, Rome has its own civil war. And 69, AD 69, Nero commits suicide. He's followed by a guy named Galba, who is Caesar. He doesn't last but 2 or 3 months. He's followed by Otho, who lives about 6 months, I think it is. Caesar, Galba, Otho, Vitellius. You get 4 Caesars in the span of 1 year. Think of what that would do to America if we had a succession of presidents that lasted about 3 months, 1/4 of the fiscal year. It was a war going on in Rome while the war inside Israel was waging. Wars, rumors of wars. Nation against nation? Yeah. And Josephus will tell you this. His book is called the Book of Wars, the book of the Roman war against Israel. He tells us that Edom, the good old Edomites, they side with the Romans and begin to pick away at Israel too. Edom is where Jordan is now, and Syria. It's all kind of, do you know anything about Middle East problems? It's nothing new. The whole concept of every nation going after their own is in there. Here is Josephus. They're more fruitful. Nor did any age ever breed a generation more fruitful in wickedness than it was that one. From the beginning of the world. They brought the Hebrew nation into a time of contempt. Slaves and scum and purious and abortive offspring of our nation. Natural disasters. You know when it's all going to come to an end, when no stone's going to be left on top of another, when everything is soon to take place. You'll know it when you see false messiahs, book of the Revelation, and Josephus mentions them. Wars and rumors of wars, got that all over the place. Within a matter of 1 or 2 years, you've got a raging war. It's there. You've got natural disasters. Specifically mentioned are earthquakes and famine. Look up here. When Jesus died, what happened that day? Thank you. How many? You got the earthquakes when he's dying. You've got an earthquake that bring up the dead that day. And then on the morning of the resurrection, you've got an earthquake. I'm sorry? Third one. But you got it. You're with it. So if Jesus is saying, watch out for earthquakes, he gives the Olivet Discourse on Wednesday, Thursday, at the latest in the Passion Week. By Friday, they're getting the first earthquakes. By Sunday, they start getting really afraid. But look up, somebody look up Acts 11 verse 28, please. Acts 11:28. I'm not going to bother you with, you know what? Acts 11:28. Read it for me because I might have got my catastrophes mixed up here. Acts 11:28. Going once.
Charles, before anybody starts reading, I'm just wondering, since the people on the video can't hear the questions, how are they going to hear the Bible reading?
You're going to have to start reading and reading really loud. So you know what? Go talk into my shirt here. Do you have Acts 11:28? Anybody? Go for it. Hold on. Who can?
I can read really loud.
Okay. Anybody? Loud.
11:28.
Yes.
One of them, named Agabus, stood up in one of the meetings and predicted by the Spirit that a great famine was coming.
Yeah, thank you. I got them mixed up. I thought so when I saw that, Acts 11. The two great disasters, and in some of them it's even a third one, pestilence. But this one is about the famine. This one's about famine. Earthquakes, those are the earthquakes. So I've mixed it all up. There's more to that. Somebody take the Hebrews 12. Oh, yes. This is the earthquake. Look up here. Do you know when this is going on, this transition from old order to new order? Do you know what that was like for the people that were living through it? Read this one, Acts 12, 25 to 29. Raise your hand and I'll come over.
12:25.
To 29.
Okay, be careful that you do not refuse to listen to the one who is speaking. For if the people of Israel do not escape when they refuse to listen to Moses and the earthly messenger, they will certainly not escape if they reject the one who speaks to us from heaven. When God speaks from Mount Sinai, his voice shook the earth, but now he makes another promise. Once again, I will shake not only the earth, but the heavens also. This means that all of creation will be shaken and removed, so that only unshakable things will remain.
You got it. What is the transition of the old order, the Jewish temple, animals, to the New Testament, the new covenant, the new sign and seal of baptism, the newness of it all? It's like an earthquake. It's an earthquake. And take that as literal as any other earthquake. What was going on in Israel in the first century? Monumental things. 2,000 years, and that's roughly from the time of Abraham down. That's the time where the covenant of Abraham came to those people. To that time, 2,000 years, and God's doing this. He's just leveling it. Why? It served its purpose. Plus, he cannot tolerate idolatry. For those that went through Isaiah, we're right back at Isaiah. I'll let you read any more of these. Well, you know what? Let me show it to you in Revelation. Revelation 11:13. Just do it really loud, and if I have to.
At the same time, there was a terrible earthquake.
Oh, look up here. Look up here. Do you read what you just read? Do you hear what you said? At that time, there was a great earthquake. Keep going.
That destroyed the tent of the city. 7,000 people died in that earthquake.
What city do you think that is? Don't answer it. What city do you think he's talking about? Is that a pretend city? Is that a city that we think about it? Not one stone's going to be left on top of another. When? False messiahs, wars, natural disasters like famine and earthquake. Go ahead, Betty, finish it up.
And everyone else was terrified, gave glory to the God of heaven.
Woohoo. And what Terry wrote is, if they, meaning Israel, unbelieving Israel, the Israel that Jesus faced, the Israel that kept demoniacs in their synagogues. How bad is it in that day? When Jesus came, every time he steps into a synagogue, the places of worship, he's got somebody demonized. He keeps seeing demons after demons after demons. When he turns his attention onto the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the chief priest, and the high priest, his conclusion is, you guys don't know the scriptures or the power of God. That's Jesus, that's not me. And this is not anti-Semitic. This is not anti-Semitic because it's Jews that wrote these. And what those Jews of the first century that wrote this are saying is, they're not Jews. True blue Jews would come to the Messiah. They would believe in Jesus. They would willfully and wonderfully embrace the new order of everything. So we're in this transition. These things must soon take place. I'm going to move along. Big storm at night, violent, strong winds, showers of rain, continual lightnings, thunderings, amazing concussions, bellowings of the earth. That's going on. Earthquakes are going on. Josephus is our, what do you call it? Help me out, Charlie. The front reporter, the head reporter. What is he? He's a what? Help me out, somebody. He's a ringside. I'm sorry? Good. But he was there. The anchors usually are back in the office getting all the credit for everything that Charlie Vicario does. What's the Charlie Vicario? The guy, it's the reporter on the spot. He is the trench warfare guy. Persecution. I'm not going to even deal with this. You've got this list. Who does the persecution? Of who? The old order people don't like where it's headed. And the old order people start taking it out on the new order people. You see what God did? On the morning of the Pentecost, when the church is born, Acts chapter 2. You know what God does? And this is an act of judgment. The whole old order was written in Hebrew. When God comes in the presence of His Spirit and baptizes, anoints, regenerates all those men in the upper room, men and women, 120 of them, they come down and they start speaking in Gentile languages, languages that they never studied in junior high and high school. And then when God says, I want you for this new order to produce a New Testament, I want you to do it in Greek. We've got a Greek New Testament. Greek was the language of the world at that time. Hebrew was good for the Hebrews. Start there. But now, behold, all things are new. We're going to have a book that'll go around the world about Jesus and the new order of things, that you don't have to go to a geographical location in order to meet with God. You can meet Him in a dank gymnasium on the backside of a county and have a wonderful time doing it. You can read all of this, the persecutions. Get familiar and get used to Him if you want to start looking things up. Let me give you a little tantalizing detail. We get a serpent in the book of the Revelation. If you know your Old Testament, you know when you come up with beasts, you're dealing with some pretty scabby things. It's not good. Beasts are not good. It's a beast that was in the garden that deluded and denuded Adam and Eve. Sorry, I sniffed. And so when a serpent shows up in the book of the Revelation, you should be reading that with a dun dun dun. And then you read that he's a red beast. It's a red serpent. His name was not Nero. That's his throne name. His name given to him was Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus. Ahenobarbus? You know what Ahenobarbus is. It's Latin, yeah. How many of you watched Lucille Ball in the day? How many watched Lucille Ball? Come on. Don't even try it. What did she do to her hair? What? She dyed it with what? You're right. And she did do that too. What did she dye it with? Henna. Henna. A plant-based dye. That's where she got the red hair. Ahino means red. Barbus, my son is a barber. It means hair, Barbus. He's a redhead. And guess what he was? He was a redhead. And if you're John and you want to describe the beast when the beast is around and could read these documents, that's the last thing you want, is for him to be down on your neck because you got him running hot and cold from Jerusalem on, the persecutions. You don't need him. And guess what? He's the one who brings the big plans. In 64, a fire broke out in Rome. Folks blamed him. The old Nero fiddled while Rome burned. He wasn't a fiddler, he was a lute player. And it may have very well been that he was goofing off. But many of the precincts of Rome burnt down because they were all wooden structures. And there were rumors that went almost immediately that he wanted it burnt down because he was out to rename Rome Neronium. He wanted the name of Rome to change to his name. And so the Senate started meeting, just like legislative and executive branches. Senate started meeting, wanting to figure out what to do with him. He's cost them a small fortune in taxes, and his lifestyle is horrible. We'll talk about him in time. I'm just giving you some teasers here. So what does he do? He lands on a group called the Christians to be the scapegoat. And his reasons were threefold. He had heard this off the streets. Those Christians, that band of cultic Jews, they were incestuous. See, today, pedophiles don't faze us any. But in that day, even the Romans, as godless as they were, somehow incestuous beings were just abhorrent. Where'd they get that notion? Well, somebody had been in the streets when they come out of their house churches and they said, "I love you, sister." And she says, "I love you, brother." What's that except incest? Moreover, if that wasn't bad enough, they got wind, they meaning the street reporters in Rome, got wind of it being a cannibalistic group. Because they would say, "I love you, brother, I love you, sister. The Lord be with you, Lord be with you. Did you meet for communion today? Did you eat the body and drink the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ?" And Rome landed on that one as you've got a group of cannibalistic, incestuous folks that are also, and this is probably the biggest one, they don't love the emperor. They don't bow before the Caesar. They refuse to take fealty oaths, loyalty oaths to Caesar. And the reason is simple. We did it with Candace back in September. Do you testify? Do you profess that Jesus is Lord? Yes, Jesus is Lord. What did the Romans want to hear? Kaiser ha kurios in Greek. Kaiser, yeah, the name Kaiser. Kaiser is Caesar. Kaiser is Caesar. Caesar ha kurios. Caesar is Lord. And a Christian can't bend if she's already said Jesus is Lord. I can't have two lords. Jesus makes that. You're either going to love one and hate the other, or you're going to hate one and love the other, but you can't have two lords. So all of that is getting these Christians in the gun sights. World evangelization. Ha! This is it, Hera. I got you right where I want you. If that's not about the end of the world, what's it about? Let me read it for you, and then we'll take it apart. I'm going to read it from Mark, because that's the one I had slides with. And while Matthew would be more detailed, I thought we could get through it a little bit quicker. Verse 10, Mark 13, verse 10. If this isn't about the end of the world, what's it about? Come on, Hera. Just give it over. And the gospel must be first preached to all nations. Look up here. That happened? You telling me within first century, verse 10 happened? The gospel will be preached to all nations? That actually took place? Let's look up some verses. These I need you to yell, but please, grab them, read them, because we've got about 20 more minutes. Colossians 1:23. This is not me. I didn't make these up. You listen to see if this isn't telling you something. Why we're looking at this is because Jesus through John says, all of these beasts in this book, all of these kings, these horses, all of these wars, it's going to soon take place. It's near. So I'm trying to show you, it's as near as your New Testament. Colossians 1:23. Colossians 1:2-3. Read it really loud, Nancy. Please.
If you continue in your faith, established and firm, and do not move from the hope held out in the gospel. This is the gospel that you heard and that has been proclaimed to every creature under heaven, and of which I, Paul, have become a servant.
Look up here. What did Paul say? You going to argue with Paul? Paul says it's been proclaimed throughout all the world. Now here's where I know that I'm right on this, because I know he doesn't use the word that you and I assume he's using. Greek word is not cosmos, which is the whole universe, the whole world. He uses the word oikonomia, which would be better translated in that time, empire. The Empire of Rome. Look where we have the gospel spreading within the New Testament. It goes from Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, and then the uttermost parts of the earth. That's not, we're still doing it, yeah, but that's because they started us on it. And so that gospel got from Israel to Syria and up into what we call Turkey, and it spread to Ephesus, and that gave 7 churches, and then we've got it going to the islands, and we've got it going to Galatia, which again is Turkey, and then into Greece. It just spreads until, if we can depend on some first century church history, when Paul wrote to the Roman church that he intended to visit them on his way to Spain, Spain was the westernmost point of the Roman Empire. And there are some who say he made it there, some church fathers. He went from Jerusalem to Spain. And that is pretty much the northern portion of the Roman Empire. Southern portion goes across the northern boundaries of Africa. And you've got people like the Ethiopian eunuch who served Candace in Africa. You have Simon of Cyrene, who was African. And you have church history that says the church in Africa was quite healthy, thank you, within the first century. And so when Paul says that in Galatians 1:23, this gospel has been preached in all the world, been preached in all the Roman Empire. And empires are very big in the scriptures. Romans 1:8. Questions? I don't want to throw you, and I know we may be meandering here, but stick with me. Romans 1:8.
First, I thank God through Jesus Christ for all of you, because of your faith being reported all over the world.
I didn't say it. Paul says that. Romans, your faith in the very capital of the Roman Empire is being spread all over the world. Now look up here. Do you think for a moment, 2,000 years ago, when the Lenni Lenape tribe of the Delaware Indians called this home, do you think they heard about Rome and the Roman Christians? No. But do you think they heard about it in Tarsus of Spain, and in Alexandria of North Africa, and in... Yes, they did. Because that's where the gospel spreads. Because that's where they were sent. One more. 10:18. Go ahead, Dan. You got the voice for it. Romans 10:18.
But I asked, did they not hear? Of course they did. Their voice has gone into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world.
So when Jesus says the gospel has got to be preached in all the world, within the New Testament, I didn't leave the New Testament. You've got the Apostle Paul, and unless you're willing to go at bat with the Apostle Paul and have him erase this, then it's done. Now, when Jesus says this in AD 30, it wasn't done. But he's saying, as you see this go on, you need to understand, the gospel has gone to the Gentiles, and the New Testament is in the Gentile language. Therefore, you're obsolete. You didn't come aboard the new covenant when you had the chance. It's still not late, the Apostle Paul would say. The gospel, it's to the Jew first and then also for the Greek. Whew. Hallelujah. Let me continue. Apostasy. I'm not going to go into details, but this is where there's either political rebellion or a religious turning around. A religious Cutting of the cords. I'll let you read that one. Notice, you've got apostasy all over the New Testament. With Hebrews, the author says, where are you going to go to? You're leaving your Christian faith? Do you know there's no more sacrifice? There's not a second sacrifice for sins. Jesus died once for all. And that's why you have him writing to the Hebrews, old order, Christians within that were leaving. Why? Most of them were in Rome. We know that from the book itself. He wrote to the Hebrew Christians in Rome. And quite frankly, what you get as you're reading that, their property was being confiscated. We don't have the program that Nero created where he burned Christians because he found them to be a very acceptable scapegoat. He burned them in the Colosseum. He mockingly did it. He found out that they talk about Jesus being the light of the world and that we're lights. And you know what he did? He would take Christians, male, female, strip them, impale them, wreck them first on a pole, and set them along the avenues and light them up. They're street lights. That's what the first Christians are facing. Then if they got selected, they'd be sent into the Colosseum and used as a wonderful game. Here it comes. They were sent into the Colosseum, and from different corners and out of hidden doors, he would release bears, lions, tigers, wild dogs, wild pig to just ravage the Christians, tear them down. Why? He sounds, look up here, beastly. Beastly. And so you can see stuff. You look this up anytime. You can go online, by the way. You don't have to buy Josephus. Just go up and you got this. Just go and type them in. It'll show you the selections. Unfortunately, this translation, it's the only one you can really get into English. It's from a guy named Whiston. Whiston wrote it, and he wrote it about 250 years ago. So good luck, because some of the language is very stilted and awkward, and, just be aware of that. But you've got first century corroboration. Let me do it this way. Let me stop for a minute and say, I'm making my presentation about this being fulfilled within near and soon. If you want to reject that, then you've got to come and do something with the passages in the New Testament that I feel are applicable to this, and you've got to find something wrong with Josephus, who was the ring, I don't know what the word is. I'll come and call you tonight around 3 when I think of it. The ringside reporter. Abomination of desolation. That's certainly the end of the world, Charlie. Abomination of desolation. Let's see if it is. Luke 21, verses 20 and 24. Don't go looking for some kind of antichrist and this and that. Again, antichrist, if you're going to run to the antichrist and say, well, the end of the world's going to start when the antichrist comes and he does this and that and this and that. But my good assistant, Bailey, has already told you, as he read from 1 John and the only other time 2 John, that Antichrist is not a person. Antichrist has nothing to do with some kind of leader. The Antichrist was a movement. That's John. I didn't make it up either. And I'm not twisting it. John will tell you in 1 John. There now Antichrist is, and there are many Antichrists. What is it? It's those that we've referred to from Paul's word, the Judaizers. Judaizers, the old order, as they saw this new thing called the gospel come up, the old order is threatened. So you know what the old order did? You can read Acts 15 for this one. Well, all of these Gentiles are coming into the covenant and we got to make room for them. But you know what? I find them obnoxious. They smell like gravy. They do things that are really disgusting, like they don't circumcise themselves. You know what? We became followers of Messiah when we were circumcised and we abstained from all blood. So therefore, and they make the decision at the Jerusalem Council, this is all again in Acts 15, if you Gentiles are going to come in and fellowship with us, you've got to get circumcised and you've got to adhere to some of the Old Testament laws. And do you see what they've done? Don't leave the old time religion. You guys have to do what we did, get circumcised. And that's why Paul says such poignant things like he does in Galatians. These Judaizers, the ones who say you got to be Jewish before you can be a Christian. He says, I wish they'd go all the way and emasculate themselves. In other words, castrate themselves. Whew. That's in your New Testament. I didn't make it up. I'm pointing it out because that's what this abomination of desolation is. So who has Luke 21, 20 to 24? 20 and 24. Luke 21, 20 and 24. Luke 20, 21, 24. Anybody? Come on. Let me get over there.
And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by smile armies, then you will know that you get out of here. Get your finger.
That's Betty Crossan speaking. You can see how much respect she has for the ordained clergy.
He shoves that in my eye.
Do it again.
Okay. And when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you will know that the time of destruction has arrived. 124 also.
Please.
Okay. They will be killed by the sword or sent away as captives to all the nations of the world. And Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end.
Thank you, Betty. I love you more than you'll ever know. Me, I get nothing. I can tell you what he does with it. You know what he does with it? An abomination is a disgusting, detestable sacrilege. That is the abomination. You see him all through the Old Testament. That causes desolation, meaning something is so detestable, disgusting that God leaves. You've obviously offended God and can do nothing about it. You'll see it throughout. I sniffed. I'm sorry. Bear with me. Betty. I love you, Betty. Luke tells you, when you see armies surrounding Jerusalem, you know that the end's in sight. This must soon take place. Jesus is saying this in 30 AD. This is dated to 30 AD, 4 days before he dies. In 70 AD, AD 70, 40 years, one generation, as Jesus says, Rome comes marching around Jerusalem. God departs. You've got a whole section on that within Josephus. But it's this one. I pointed to it in my book. The desolation probably came when a guy named Phinehas was made high priest. Phinehas is somebody that was unworthy of it. The way Josephus phrases it, and again, this is going into 1700s English, he was a mere rustic. I think he's saying he was mentally, emotionally, physically challenged. This guy didn't even know what a high priest was. He didn't know. He not only was unworthy of it, but did not know what a high priesthood was. He didn't know what it was, and they put him, and they put the garb on him, the breastplate, the mitre, the ephod, the linen garment, the tassels and the bells and all of it. He's dressed. And he had no idea. You know why they did it? Those that put him in, because it's a mockery. When is this? This is about 67, 68. That's when God simply leaves. Great tribulation, I'll let you read it, but look up here. Notice the passage on this. You don't have a chapter and a verse, Charlie. I know. This is about this, or this is contained in this. You want to know about the tribulation? Read not only Matthew 24 to 25, Mark 13, Luke 21, much of the New Testament, but read Revelation as well. False Christs, besides false messiahs. Yeah, you've got one that's called the Egyptian. You've got one called Judas and Theudas, two guys. Those are in the New Testament that come and say, follow me, follow me. Josephus will tell you that there was all sorts of folks that came in. I don't know why I have that one there. Oh, yeah, okay, yes. Somebody look up Mark 13, 21 and 22. I'm going to end with this one. I think I've made my case as best I can. Listen to Mark 13, 21 and 22. This is about the false Christ. But catch the language.
I've got it.
Really loud.
And then if any man shall say to you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is here, believe him not. For false Christs and false prophets shall rise, and shall shew signs and wonders, to seduce, if it were possible,
The very
even
elect.
the elect.
Good. Okay, the language is, look, there he is, or look over here. That one, look, there he is. There he's coming. He's over there. That's what these next 3 or 4 slides are about. What we're told in the Book of Wars, that's the wars with Rome. He was ringside to it. Remember, he was a general. Josephus, that is. In the book 5, chapter 6, the 3rd section, Wars 5, 6, 3, he says, and this is right in 6970. 6970. I'll just give it to you. I can either have you read it or just report on it. I'm going to report on it. The 10th Legion is one of the 4 legions that surrounded Jerusalem. 10th Legion was called Fretensis. They stood out on the top of Mount of Olives and beyond, 2 furlongs out, about a half mile to 3/4 of a mile out. And they began to use what are called, this is their name for it, the scorpions. You know your book of Revelation? Anything about scorpions in Revelation? They had their ballistas, their scorpions, and there's another name for a third variety. All of them long-range weapons. They're catapults. Catapults. And you can see why a scorpion would be a good name. You know how a scorpion stings. The scorpions, and they were hurling catapult stones that weighed about 75 pounds. Made out of the native limestone. Easy to shape, little softer, but hard. And they were attempting, because Jerusalem was surrounded by that wall, Luke said it, when you see Israel surrounded by armies, you know the end is in sight. Rome is trying to beat the walls down so they can get in and destroy. What did the Jews do with these? They sat up on the wall. They had reporters, criers, early warning system. And they would listen for it. Let me go back to Josephus. They would listen for it. And they watched the coming of it coming in and listened to the noise. It made this great whistling noise. They saw it against the blue sky in white collar. And do you know what the incoming signal is? Not look out, watch out, look up here. Josephus tells us, and again, I keep saying this, I'm trying to drive it home. I didn't write this. This is from a first century eyewitness to these things. When those men up on the walls in Jerusalem, as this city is coming down, as the temple is ready to be raised, it doesn't mean raised, it means raised, they had the signal, the Son cometh. I didn't make that up. The Son cometh. You know what they're doing? They're mocking Christians. Christians had already gotten out by this time. Do you know how many Christians, Jewish Christians, died in the war with Rome? 0. You want to know why? Because when they saw the armies coming, they remembered Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. They had been taught, get out of town. And they got out of town. No Christians were destroyed. This is how the first treatment of these passages were taken. Christians learned what to do with Jesus' prophetic skills. And so the Jews, unbelieving, apostate, the old order, they stood on the walls and decided to have some fun with the Christians who had testified that they believed Jesus is going to come again. And so their signal for incoming was, the Son cometh! He's coming in the clouds. Oh, look at this. Are you with me? Don't believe when they say, Jesus is coming. I saw him out in the wilderness and all of that. And those are the real stones. They've collected them. They use that many to pound down the walls. Look at Revelation 16, 19 to 21. I'm going to do it. Because this is one that'll grab you. And then, and again, remember our motto here. If you're not grabbed, I will come and grab you if I have to. 19 to 21. Just give me your heart. Let me start it at 17. The seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and out of the temple, why, if this was supposed to be for the future, there is no temple. If this is for 70 AD, the temple's still there. Out of the temple came a loud voice from the throne saying, it's done. Then there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a severe earthquake. I didn't make it up. Earthquake like it had never occurred since man has been on earth. So tremendous was the quake. How many times can you talk about quakes there? The great city split into 3 parts. Historically, that's true. There were 3 factions that took over Jerusalem. The cities of the Gentiles, nations, and the cities of the Gentiles collapsed. God remembered Babylon the Great and gave her a cup filled with the wine of the fury of his wrath. Here it comes. Every island fled away and the mountains could not be found. Get ready. I want to hear it. When I read this, at the end of it, I want you to go, thank you. Ready? From the sky, huge hailstones of about 100 pounds each fell upon men. And they cursed God on account of the plague of hail because the plague was so terrible. Thank you. Do you see it? Jesus says, when you here's the Lord, there's the Lord. And these jackasses along the city walls, who are the sentry men looking for the incoming missiles, the sun cometh. And when John writes about it, he said, you know what it was like? You know what it's going to be like? It's going to be like 7,500-pound hailstones falling on what? On the city. What city? You have to figure it out if you haven't got it by now. I can't do it. You're seeing it. This must soon take place. That's 70. Jesus tells them in 30. You can read about it. Great signs and miracles. If you got to go, go. I do want to do this one for you, because this is where Josephus puts the little hair. How many of you have little hairs on your neck? Raise your hand if you have hairs on your neck. I have some on the side of my head. I'm going to read this. Great signs and miracles. It's all in Revelation 13, 17, all through it. 12 is a big one. With Josephus, this one's really detailed. There was and this is about 68, there was a star resembling a sword which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year. There's going to be signs and wonders. There's going to be signs in the heavens. And Josephus, I don't think he had the New Testament. I don't think he had the book of the Revelation. He's just telling you what he witnessed. And he says, there was a sign of a comet that was lasting for a year, and there was a star that looked like a sword over the city. Thus also before the Jews' rebellion, I didn't make it up, this is Josephus, a Jew writing about the rebellion of the Jews. And before those commotions which preceded the war, when people were come in great crowds to the feast of unleavened bread, in other words, Passover, on the 8th day of the month of Nisan, we don't use that word usually, Xanthicus, and at the 9th hour of the night, so this is 9th hour of the night, it's 3 a.m. So great a light shone around the altar and the holy house that it appeared to be bright daylight, which light lasted a half an hour. This light seemed to be a good sign to the unskillful. The unskillful what? They didn't know any better. Oh, there's light. Look, somebody left lights on in the church. How wonderful. Josephus isn't buying any of it. But it was so interpreted by the sacred scribes as to portend, as to preview, as to predict those events that followed immediately upon it. I can't get that part. Here's the best one. At the same feast, the feast of what? Passover. Something happened at the feast of the Passover. What do you usually kill when it's Passover? Lambs. This is Josephus. This isn't Charlie. A heifer, as she was being led by the high priest to be sacrificed. Heifers, that's a female unmated cow. This is Passover. Same festival as the one that we just read. This is what happens. This unmated female heifer, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her, she brought forth a lamb. What does that mean, Hera? This unmated heifer is being led by the high priest to be sacrificed. Numbers 19 gives you all you need to know about that one. And while she's there, she gives birth to a lamb. How many of you think that would be a sign? Would you consider that at all miraculous? How many times have you seen a cow give birth to a lamb? Jesus predicted this 40 years before. There's going to be signs. It's a pretty good one. Do you know when you sacrifice a heifer? When the priesthood has to be recommissioned, rededicated, reconsecrated, you took the red heifer. She had to be red. Couldn't have more than 2 white hairs on her. You took her outside the city at a unique altar, and you slayed her there. Or, if it wasn't for the reconsecration of the priesthood, it was when you recognized, look up here, there was an unsolved murder in your land, and you're slaying a heifer to atone for that murder. When did Jesus get killed? Say it. Passover. This is 36 or so years after that. And what do? They kill a heifer. I think things are beginning to close up on them. Moreover, the eastern gate of the inner court, let me see if I have a picture of it. I don't. The gate opened all by itself. It was vastly heavy. It took 20 men to close it. This thing at one point just swings open. And the pins on this door weighs tons. And it just opened on its own, and the hinges that went into base at the bottom, deep, amazing construction. It opened of its own accord. And again, those idiots around said, this is a good thing, God's opening. And it's not. It opened of its own accord. Now those that kept watch of the temple hereby came running to the temple guard, to the captain of the guard, told him of it, and they were able to, with great effort, shut the gate again. This appeared to the vulgar to be a very happy prodigy, as if God thereby opened them to the gate of happiness. But the men of learning understood that the security of the temple had been compromised. Oh, look at this. So these publicly declared that this signal, the gate opening, foreshadowed not God opening the gate of happiness. It showed, here's his word, the desolation. God's leaving. God opened his own door, thank you, and he's leaving the temple. It's a common Old Testament scene. 21st day of the month, certain project, incredible problem. I suppose the account would seem fable. It did not relate to chariots. Here's one in the sky. Before sunsetting, chariots and troops of soldiers in their armor were seen running around among the clouds and surrounding the cities. Jesus said, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by what? The 10th, the 13th Legion of Rome, and then these angelic soldiers. Whew. Then you'll know the end is near, and not one stone is going to be left on top of another. And there's quaking, and there's sounds. And what does the sound say? This is right after the door was open. Let us remove hence. That's Josephus saying what he heard, or what was heard, was the doors open, and God saying, we're out of here. You saw that if you've read the Olivet Discourse. Before Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, you see Jesus, and I did it for you on the map. You see Jesus leaving the temple. What is that? God's left the building. These things must soon take place. They're near. I won't read that one. You get the idea. We've got all kinds. You've got all the passages. I'm going to leave it at this. Matthew tells us that one of the signs is going to be death. Massive death. If that's the end of the world, what's new? You think death's new? Somebody last night, a friend within the church, as it were, he loosely connected to it, a man by the name of Victor, died in a stupid accident. He's got to be 50s, 60s, and he's riding a moped thing. I don't know. Death is all around. I have the best man in my wedding. he has a severe cancer. And you know Christ Church. Christ Church, it's almost, and don't misunderstand this, it's almost routine. We'll never get used to it, and we'll always fight against it, and we'll always pray for healing. But death, it's no big deal. Let me just do it. Matthew 24. Matthew 24, 26 to 28. Think Roman war now. Okay? Listen for it. You see if you can begin to pick these hints up. 26 to 28. Let me start with a run at it with what we just studied. This is verse 23. This is Matthew's version of the Olivet Discourse. At that time, if anyone says to you, "Look, here's the Christ," or "There he is," do not follow it. Remember, here comes the Son. The Son cometh with the incoming ballistic missiles. They will appear, false prophets will appear and perform great miracles and deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I've told you ahead of time. Did you hear that one? I've told you ahead of time. Now, if it's him speaking to the apostles, and this is about our future events, then that means nothing at all to them. I've told you these things ahead of time. But if it's about the Roman war of 66 to 73, then it begins to get serious. Here it comes. So if anyone tells you, "There he is out in the desert," do not go out. "Here he is in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Listen, lean in. Wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. And I gave you the Greek, hoi atoi. It can either be vultures or eagles. And to a Jew of the first century, these are the same things. These eat roadkill. This eats roadkill. These are carrion feeders. And what's Jesus saying there? There's going to be a lot of death. And wherever the eagles swarm, you know it's going to be bad. Look up there. Again, I say it, I didn't make this up. Of all the standards that the Romans could have used for their flags, their coins, their insignia, they picked up eagles. And if you're in Jerusalem, in and around 68, 69, 70, you're seeing a whole lot of eagles. And they do a whole lot of killing. We're talking hundreds of thousands of Jews from Galilee to Judea, if not millions. And the eagles have swarmed. Lights out. Hera, surely that's got to be the end of the world. It's the passage where Jesus says, and you know it's coming at a time when the sun goes dark, the moon turns to blood, and the stars fall out of the sky. If that is an apocalypse, if that's not the end of the world, if that's not creation coming to an abrupt halt, what is, Hera? And I'll say, notice, my dear brothers and sisters that went through Isaiah with me, that's not a new expression. Sun going dark, moon turning to blood, stars falling out of the sky. Isaiah used it. In fact, he used it a couple of times. And Amos used it. And Ezekiel used it. And here it comes again in Isaiah. And that expression, it's used by the Apostle Peter on the very first Christian sermon. He comes out of that upper room that we talked about. He goes into the streets. And of all the passages he could have picked for the very first Christian sermon, it's going to be translated into, 70 languages. He picks out of Joel chapter 2. And Joel chapter 2 is a prophecy about the stars going out, the sun going dark, the moon turning to blood, And the Apostle Peter preaches it and preaches it and preaches it and then does this. That prophecy out of Joel, in your viewership, in your hearing today, that prophecy has been fulfilled. Why? Because Pentecost was the beginning of the Holocaust. What does the stars going out, moon turning dark, sun turning dark, moon turning to blood mean? It means time is up for these nations. When Isaiah said it, he was describing the end of Babylonia. He was describing it as the end of Samaria, the northern portion of Israel, the 10 tribes to the north. The capital there was Samaria. He's talking about the end of Egypt at the Carchemish, Battle of Carchemish in 608. Egypt is going to be really finished up. Edom, which is what we think of as Jordan today, it's done. And now, as the church is born, as the new order has come, what were the stars and the sun and the moon given for? To tell time. They were there. The sun tells you if it's day or night. The moon will tell you what time of month it is. The stars will tell you what seasons we're in. They were there to tell time. And if you're going to be poetic and a Jewish prophet, what better way of saying, your time's up, than to say everything goes to dark. You don't know if it's day or night. You won't know if it's full moon or a gibbous. You won't know any of that. And I don't know what a gibbous is. It just sounded funny. I think it's probably something at the zoo, but don't quote me on that. And you won't know what season it is because time's up. And it's Peter, the very first Christian sermon preached. It was preached by an apostle, and the news was essentially, hey, it's done. The new has come. Behold, all things are new. Coming of the Son of Man with clouds. Remember, and we'll go into this when we go to Revelation. We're going to leave all of this preliminary stuff next week, Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. Coming of the Son of Man. Hera, surely you've got to say that's the end of the world. And I'm saying, understand that this is a very common concept within the Scriptures. God's always coming. He comes judiciously, He comes nationally, He comes individually. When I became a Christian, what was it? God came to me. I didn't go to Him. I didn't decide for Him. He came to me. The coming of the Son of Man is born right out of the prophecy of Daniel, where the Ancient of Days is seated on the throne. And the one like the Son of Man comes to him in the clouds. We always assume, and wrongly so, that any coming has got to be coming to the earth. But remember, at the ascension, Jesus was in the clouds. And the coming was the proper one. He was returning to heaven, which is where He belongs. It's where we belong. He was coming before the Ancient of Days. He's returning to the Father to sit at the Father's right hand. That's a coming. And it's a coming with clouds. And it's a coming with the angels. We are so far beyond. That's what it looked like. This is what we're dealing with. That's Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. That's Revelation. If that's anticlimactic, don't. Because the application of this whole dynamic could not be more important, germane, than it is today. This, my dear friends, is where virtually every Sudanese Christian, every Nigerian Christian, every Chinese Christian lives. They're all outlawed. They're all illegal. That's what the nations do to the church, the kingdom of God. That's a fairly good representation of it. And that expression, not one stone will be left on top of another. After they beat the walls down of Jerusalem, The Romans knew enough to know that filigree that was overlaid in gold and all the gold adornments, and inside the temple proper itself, inside the Holy and the Holy of Holies, they were told that it had been covered, adorned with gold overlay. And there was gold furniture. And you were a Roman soldier. So you know what they did? Josephus tells you. Some of the soldiers went in and they built a fire in that temple. And I told you it was limestone. And limestone has a fairly high water content. And if you burn water, what happens to the water? It expands, steam. And that's exactly what happened to that native limestone. It expanded, and as it expanded, it blew up. And all of the building came tumbling down. And do you know what the Romans did? Romans did exactly what you and I would have done if we had this absolutely pagan notion of things. They waited until it cooled down. But all that gold had been molten, and when it fell, it went down the cracks. How are you going to reclaim that? You're going to do this to the stones. You're going to throw them off so that when Jesus says, I tell you, not one stone will be left on top of another there. You can go to this day. I don't know if I have a slide on it or not, but that's exactly what you find. There you go. Those are some of the stones. This is at the Western Wall. Don't call it the Wailing Wall. That's an insult to Jews. This is the Western Wall. Where did this all come from? That's not riprap down at the bay. This is the stones that the Romans threw all over the place to get to the gold. There's some. This is a casement wall. You can see the ladder the archaeologists use, and they're going in, and they're trying to see where things are at. I didn't make it up. That's the book of the Revelation. How important was it, this war? This is called the Arch of Titus. The Arch of Titus. It's because he became a triumphator. He conquered a city. Titus came back, and they gave him a big parade. And this, which still exists, is so important. On this side, inside the ark, he had the menorah carved into it. I didn't make this up. This is the Romans marching out with the holy furniture of God. It's that big that they would commemorate it in their own city. And Rome and Jerusalem, with 7 little churches right in the middle of both of them, geographically speaking. They are vying for political and religious and social domination, and they, Rome, fed up with these intransigent, these derelicts, their religion with one God. We love all the gods. We make new ones up every day. And they decided, enough of the rebellion, we're marching against them. And that's what happens. There's the silver trumpets. You know anything about trumpets in the book of Revelation? You know anything about 7 candlesticks? I won't do those. We'll do them another. And we're done. Yeah. I'm good if you are. We'll leave it at that. Questions? Yes, sir.
If all of Josephus' witnesses, we always remain and or die a Jew?
Yeah. The question is, with Josephus recording all of this, did he remain and die a Jew? And the answer is yes. Except, I've seen recently some say with that Jesus testimony, it'll bug me if I don't do it. It'll irritate you if I do it. Who wins on this one? He may have converted, because what he says about Jesus is nothing short of absolutely 18:3. 18:3. It's worth it. Some have suggested that he did convert. And it may have very well been, I was 2 pages when I read the John the Baptist stuff from our friend Josephus from the 1st century, not writing in the New Testament, but writing about those times. Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, for he was a doer of wonderful works, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. He was the Christ. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men among us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him, for he appeared to them alive again the 3rd day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things concerning him. And the tribe of Christians, so named from him, are not extinct at this day. I'll let you decide if he was a believer or not, but he had a very high opinion of Jesus. And again, that's a history book, and it's talking about the things that Jesus is talking about. So no, I don't put Josephus on the same level as the Bible, but he's there, and he's an eyewitness to many of it, and he was a good historian. You can't write for the emperor unless you're telling the truth, because the emperor would have your head. He was so good, his name, Yosef ben Mattiyahu HaKohen, Joseph the son of Matthew the priest, it's changed by the emperor to Josephus Flavius, Flavius Josephus. And if you know your Roman history, it's the Flavian family that ruled Rome and the Roman Empire for the 1st century. He was adopted into to the emperor's family, Flavius Josephus. Fascinating. So, yeah, I think so. And that even is more impressive because he's talking some real smack against Israel, which carried favor with the Romans. But he also deals favorably, he deals scandalously with the Romans. And it's not just, that's not the only 1st century historian we have. We've got 2 Roman historians that tell us about these things. If you're really wanting to dig in, you can look up Tacitus and Suetonius. They're Roman historians, and they talk about the same things, including the signs and the stars and all of that. We're at 2-hour mark. I won't do it every week, but we got it done. Next week, we're going out of verses 1, 2, and 3 to go to verse 4, 5 to 8. I know, big doings here. And it may very well be that Charlie Vicario says, I've had enough of Lynchburg. I want to get to the big town of Villas, New Jersey. Any questions? Let's pray. Father in heaven, we bow and we thank you for these lessons we're learning. And where it seems remote and I know, and I'm frank about it, many of the people are in over their heads. I know that, and I regret that, but it's attempting to teach things that I think we need to be exposed to. I can't convince anybody of anything. That's your job, Lord. At least I'm presenting some material to them that I think they can work with. But you change them. They're yours. You teach them. You train them. You love them. You bring them up in these things. Thank you for this place. Thank you for the people that make it possible for us to be here. Thank you for your goodness to us. Take these lessons and whatever is of Christ, whatever is lasting, whatever gives you glory, leave that on their hearts. Whatever is mind nonsense, whatever is feeble stuff, let them forget it immediately. Again, we pray for safety as we travel home. We pray for sleep and rest. and prepare us, Lord, for your work in your world. And this world does seem quite hostile at times. And we've got a whole book about what it looks like to be faithful to Jesus in a very threatening world. So help us to value it, as well practice it. And I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. I won't keep it to 2 hours, but I think you saw the need to kind of finish it up a little bit.